shade busier at B Street with the pizza Hut driveway down there.
Yeah, you want to go past there meantime.
Or you want to go right, you want to get wide right.
And then the water crew blocked off B Street.
Oh,
Yeah,
today.
it's gonna get real
At
interesting.
least my
around
street's open again.
there. Yes. Yeah. E Street is open, that's the important thing.
It is. They tore the building down.
Oh.
Catty corner from my office. It's gone.
I'm sure we'll begin, you know, at some point, people have who have often expressed their concerns, so.
Yeah.
Belly dumps or side dumps. Oh, I do too. So the car dealerships there, but you know, the Fortress Insurance, they were up there, or the hearing aid. Today, yeah. I sat there and watched them half the day. I wanted to, I don't know if it was Al on that excavator, I kind of wanted to run that a little bit. You would like that.
All right, everyone, welcome to the City Council meeting here on Tuesday, December 6, 2022, beginning at 5:30 p.m. Of course, we are here in the City Council chambers. Calling the meeting to order, we have our invocation by Pastor Joe Sucraw, please.
There was a birth announcement given 700 years before the baby was born. And in that announcement it said, for us, to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. He will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end. God, I want to thank you that you cared enough about us and cared enough about this world to come in the person of Jesus Christ. God, there's so many beautiful things about this story, but obviously the love that you have to enter into our pain and brokenness is something that can never be matched. Thank you for the purposes for which Jesus came. And God, when it says the government will be on his shoulders, I'm not sure we always know exactly what that means, but one thing I do know is his shoulders are big enough to carry the load. And anyone who's ever served in any kind of government position knows that there is a heavy load to carry. So I pray for the men and women of our city that carry the load of city government. God, that it wouldn't just be their strength alone, but it would be your strength that enables them to carry the weight of the responsibilities that they have. Pray for your wisdom and the decisions that are made tonight. And thank you, God, for the celebration of Christmas. And Lord, I can't help but think of when you take Christ out of Christmas, all you have left is mess. So Lord, we want to keep you in so that we're not just left with a mess. I pray this in Jesus' name, amen. Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Angie.
Nestle,
Here.
Tryon. Here. Wolf,
Here.
Lucas,
Here.
Garrett,
Here.
Lander,
Here.
Baker,
Here.
Woods.
Here.
Thank you. A current copy of the Open Meetings Act of the State of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers, roughly above Brent's head. Meeting procedure. The public may address specific agenda items at the pleasure of the mayor. If recognized by the mayor, please identify yourself by stating your name and address. Please address the council through the mayor and limit your remarks. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. Tonight we have awards, presentations, and accolades, which is not something we have every night. And it's a very exciting time. Of course, many of you recall there was an election last month, and it is the practice here in North Platte that we install our city council members on the first meeting in December, and of course this is the first meeting in December. So we're happy that all of our sitting members were reelected. And At this time, myself and the city attorney will administer the oath of office to Mr. Nisley, Mr. Lucas, Mr. Flanders, and Mr. Reeker. So if you guys would come up front, please. And then we'll take care of some police oathing after that.
Okay, we're going now. All right, gentlemen, if you could all raise your right hands, please, and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
In the Constitution of the State of Nebraska against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely and without mental reservation or for purpose of evasion.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without mental reservation or for purpose of evasion.
And that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of the City Council of North Platte, Nebraska, according to law and to the best of my ability.
And that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of the City Council of Nebraska according to law and to the best of my ability.
And I do further swear that I do not advocate, nor am I a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence.
And I do solemnly swear that I do not advocate, nor am I a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or this state by force or violence.
And that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence.
And that during such time as I am in this position, I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Congratulations, how we go.
Doing this for the sake of the folks at home. So, very exciting tonight. We get to swear in 3 new police officers here in North Platte. So if I could have the chief and Daniel Lever and Keegan Parker and Eric Burke come up, please. Now, just to say a little bit about, let's see, you're Daniel. Okay, thank you. He has a Bachelor of Arts in Public Administration and has his basic law enforcement certification from Orange County Sheriff's Office. He was employed by the Sheriff's Office for over 5 years. Keegan, okay, you lined up in order perfectly. Thank you very much. Graduated from the from the Nebraska Law Enforcement Training Center with his basic certification in April of 2022. He was employed by the Ogallala Police Department for a year, and then he has come to North Platte. And we may have to sing to Keegan in a little bit because today is his 24th birthday.
Nice.
Don't worry, we're not really gonna sing. And then, of course, Eric Burke graduated from Nebraska Law Enforcement Training Center with his basic certification also in April 2020, and was employed by the McCook Police Department for 3 years, which we're glad that you're here now. It is not Eric's birthday today. Would have been pretty cool. Okay. Are you guys ready? Okay. Please repeat after me. I state your name.
Daniel Lever,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Nebraska.
and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Nebraska,
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and defend them against enemies, foreign and domestic.
and defend them against enemies, foreign and domestic,
And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of a peace officer to the best of my ability, so help me God.
the duties of a peace officer to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Perfect. Thank you. Clearly, we had crime under control here in city council for a little while there. I'm gonna have to come up with a new joke. I think that's the third time I've used that one. Okay. Excuse me. Moving on to the consent agenda. All matters under the consent agenda are considered by the city council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any city council member may, however, remove an item from consent by request. We have 9 items on the consent agenda tonight. Number 1, approve the minutes of November 15, 16, and 17, 2022. Number 2, place on file Lincoln County Clerk certification of November 8, 2022 election results. Number 3, send application of JWJS Investments LLC DBA Brothers Tavern for a Class C liquor license, beer, wine, and distilled spirits on and off sale at 215 East 6th Street to the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission with no recommendation. Number 4, approve the appointment of Chance Schilling to the City of North Platte Planning Commission. Number 5, award the contract for services to Marvin Planning Consultants, Inc. to provide the North Platte/Lincoln County Housing Study update and authorize the mayor to sign related documents. Number 6, authorize the police department to apply for Nebraska Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office grant-funded overtime reimbursement to participate in the, quote, drive sober or get pulled over, end quote, selective overtime enforcement campaign. Number 7, approve the purchase of a 40 by 60 Polygon Park Shelter and related materials to install in Cody Park using New Bern funds in the amount of $177,930. Item number 8, authorize the mayor to execute the purchase agreement for a used New Holland TS 6.140 TB tractor and a used Schulte FX-315 mower for the street division. Item number 9, authorize the mayor to execute the purchase agreements with Sanitation Products, Inc. and Elliott Equipment for replacement trucks for the sanitation department.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Reeker?
I would request that we remove item number 5 from the consent agenda, please.
And Mr. Mayor, I would like to remove number 7 from the consent agenda just because I want to discuss it so the public knows. Okay.
That's fine.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
May I request number 9 be removed from the consent agenda, please?
Okay. Anything else? Okay, would someone make a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we remove item number 5, number 7, and number 9 from the consent agenda for further consideration.
Thank you, but what you actually need to do is motion the rest of them to be approved, if you would, please. And then we will consider all the ones that you've asked to pull.
Motion each one individually.
No, just do them as a group.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve items 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8 of the consent agenda. Second.
Thank you. Okay, please vote on items 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8 of the consent agenda. Okay, those items are passed. We will now consider item number 5. Mr. Reeker, you asked for it to be
Yes, thank you,
removed.
Mr. Mayor. A question that I have under the executive summary, It says award of the North Platte Lincoln County Housing Study Update. I presume there's some collaboration with Lincoln County on this. I didn't see any costs associated with this in the documents that we have. Is there some kind of a sharing of the fees for this, or how's that accommodated?
Judy, you want to fill us in, please?
Mr. Reeker? Sorry. Is that better? Is it on?
Is it on? I think so.
Says it's on.
Okay.
Yes, there's collaboration between the planning department with the county and the planning department with the city. We budgeted to do a couple of different planning items this upcoming year. One was the comp plan update, and the other one was the housing study update. Back in 2018, when the housing study was done, it was a collaboration between both Lincoln County and the city of North Platte, so we included the villages also. So the county has budgeted some funding, and the city has budgeted some funding, and so we will cooperatively pay for that.
So how do we determine who pays for what?
Well, I guess that's just a decision that we make depending on the amount that, what we receive back from the consultant as far as the time for the county, the time for the city. We make sure it's really fair
So
between the
it'll be
two
allocated
entities.
based on the time he spends on each one of those separate entities.
Yep, it'll be very similar to how we did it back in 2018. We made sure the cost was divvied up. The city ends up paying more because the city gets more of a benefit from it than the county actually does. But yeah, we do make sure that it's pretty even.
And then the other question that I have regarding the selection of someone to do this study, how, is that taken out for a request for proposal, or how do we determine who we're gonna select to do the study?
In this one, we didn't. We were trying to keep the cost very low. We've worked with Marvin Planning Consultants. Our last housing study that was done by Marvin Planning Consultants. He brought in some additional consulting teams to help him out with that one. And I contacted him to see what he would have given us for a price. The price that he has there, I believe, is $35,000. Seems very, very, very good bid for something like that. My fear was going out that they would take the product that we really have gotten a lot of use out of. Lincoln County CDC has used the current product. DevCo uses it constantly. The city of North Platte has used it, and it's helped us to secure some funding. It's an extremely good document, and so we just felt if we could stick with that same consultant again. Now, in 3 years, we may choose to do something different because these are things that you need to update probably every 3 to 5 years in order to keep them updated, and the state actually came back and said they need to be updated every 3 years. So, you know, in 3 years' time, we may choose to go a different route, but we were trying to just keep it as fiscally responsible as we could.
So are there any statutory requirements that we take something like this for proposal or not?
I would have to defer to the attorney on that one, but I don't think we did anything incorrectly by doing this.
I'm not aware of anything off the top of my head, Mr. Reeker, but if that's something you want me to look further into, I'm happy to. But off the top of my head, I'm not aware of anything.
Okay, thank you.
And I can assure you, the comprehensive plan will be a much larger project, and we've already got a advertisement out for requesting proposals for that one.
I would certainly prefer that we have some competitive bidding on, I know you don't take it out to bid, but be able to compare credentials and
Yep.
and the finished product on this. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you,
Okay.
Judy.
I have a question just for my own information. Does someone have to be certified to do this kind of a plan? I mean, how?
We get qualified professional staff, yes. They're all, any statewide and sometimes nationwide people will do these projects. They are consultants. Most of them are AICP certified, which is American Institute of Certified Planners. I don't know that the state has something that says that you have to be certified in something to be a consultant. I could probably start a business and be a consultant myself, but yeah, they usually are. They're and these in particular I know are AICP certified.
Okay, so then, is there any thought that maybe someone within the city government could be part of this, city and county, and do this and save us some money, and we could update it weekly?
Well, what we do throughout the 3-year time frame is we try to collect data and keep things as up to date as possible because there's always new data coming in. Could we do that? Probably, but you're going to have to dedicate a staff of 3 to 5 people for an entire 18-month process in order to do it. Do we have people on staff that are qualified that could do a study like this? Probably. But it would be extremely time consuming and they would have to have 100% of their time for 18 months dedicated to the project.
You know, I'm sorry, Don, I didn't mean to.
Go ahead,
No,
go ahead,
please.
because I might come up with something other.
You have the floor.
Yeah, you know, I still feel like the study that was done in 18, which was, it was a deep study, had a tremendous process. We've gotten great benefit out of it, and I think it's generally probably still accurate. But I think the reality is that the state has a lot of money. Housing is a top priority objective at the state, especially workforce and low to moderate income housing. And if we don't have a current independent study, we're going to put ourselves at a disadvantage with other communities of trying to have state assistance in that. And that state assistance money is our money that our taxpayers have put into the state coffers. And so I want to make sure we're positioned as well as we can to get that, because we're going to have as great a need as anybody in the state. And so I think your method of going independent but trying to do it in the most cost-effective manner, knowing that our 2018 study was pretty thorough, is a good plan, Judy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And the state, just to elaborate on that a little bit, the state has said that they will not accept anything for funding if it's greater than 3 years old. So we will be behind if we don't get this done, and we won't be eligible for any of that type of funding.
And I'd be a little nervous if we did it ourselves, even if that was allowed, on how that may be viewed versus something that has a little more independence to it too. But it is expensive, isn't it?
That's what I'm thinking.
Wait till you see the comp plan.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Judy? Okay,
Thank you.
let's just take these individually. So we would need a motion to proceed if there are no more
I would
questions.
make a motion to award the contract for services to Marvin Planning Consultants, Inc. to provide the North Platte, Lincoln County Housing Study Update and authorize the mayor to sign related documents.
Second.
Motion Vols, second Garrick. Calling the question on item number 5. Item number 5 is passed. Item number 7, which is to approve the purchase of a 40 by 60 polygon park shelter and related materials to install in Cody Park using New Bern funds in the amount of $177,930. Probably really should just have a motion to start this before we do any discussion here, so.
I move to approve the purchase of a 40-foot by 60-foot polygon park shelter and related materials to install in Cody Park using New Bern funds in the amount of $177,930.
Second.
Motion Garrick, second Flanders. Okay, discussion. Donna, I think you pulled this one, so.
I did. I was concerned about the price and also the need for it. I understand that apparently the requests have been increased, but I felt like that was a lot because of COVID and the fact that we couldn't have events in an enclosed area for the last couple of years. However, I did speak with Mr. Grosef, and he gave me some information, and I just would like for him to kind of share that with the folks, because so they kind of understand a little bit of a dilemma that we're, I don't know if I want to call it a dilemma, but just so they know a little bit why we might be doing it now and for that much money. If you don't mind, Lane.
Yes, working with Lyle on this, so our demand has increased for the shelters. We do take reservations for shelters, but if people haven't reserved it, then anybody can use the shelters, during the day. We've seen that demand, and also this is kind of a unique spot away from kind of some of our other spots. As far as the cost of it, this is the same company that did the shelter around the merry-go-round, and then also the one in Memorial Park, the newer one in Memorial Park. And so they're designed to withstand the wind loads, the snow loads, and different things. And so there's some protections we get with that, with the engineer's approval for a park design. And so that's kind of one of the thought processes behind using a pre-engineered and a very designed for park use structure. And Lyle may be able to go into a little more detail on that, but that was the thought process behind this, instead of either city crews just building something themselves, or, you know, just kind of sketching something out and building it. It was going with a certified engineered design.
Mr. Vols?
I stopped in your office first thing Monday morning because this one drew my attention as well. And over the past couple days, I've been trying to think of the best use of New Bern funds. This is something that everyone in North Platte can use. You know, there are little pet projects all over the place that you kind of want to throw some money at if at all you can. But this is something that everybody can use. There is a need for gathering areas, you know, in our community. So that's, I lean on, then I'm going to lean on the experts in the room as to what our parks need. So Lyle, that's where you come in. You know, if you say this is a good project, then, and this is what we need, then I'm gonna have to bow to your opinion on that. Two questions I had though, lighting and concrete underneath. I saw some wiring in the bid, but more for outlet type things. Is there gonna be any type of lighting back there?
Oh, yeah.
Or in
Oh,
the
yeah.
structure?
Yeah, 'cause
And
most-
then concrete?
Most of the reservations we do will go into the night, you know, and you'll notice that the other shelter that we have over there in Cody Park is also lit very well too. I mean, anything from concerts we've had, you know, to weddings, to most anything that we do, it requires some lighting, and so there'll be some lighting involved with it too. And I believe there's some street lighting over there already to kind of cover the area where the parking is and stuff like that. So.
Perfect. Is there gonna be a concrete base under this?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Matter of fact, we'll probably go a little bit wider than what the original shelter we have now is, so that people can have picnic tables outside if they want to, you know, just have a little more room to enjoy the gathering right there.
Okay, very good, thank you. It's a perfect area, it's a pretty area, and it would complement that pond and everything else right there. I think it would make for a nice setting, so.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can have anything from softball teams, you know, gathering there to having birthday parties and having the kids, you know, go right to the playground, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have a question. Are they going to polish the concrete so it's smooth?
Well, it'll have a finish on it that will, you know, that we won't have, it won't be really super rough or anything like that, so.
Okay.
But it'll be our standard finish on that, so. Why do you ask for the smooth?
Oh, well, because we used the one during COVID when we couldn't meet anywhere. We had dances,
Oh,
so, and they put down shredded rubber or something or other, so we'd slide a little bit.
yeah,
I might have to talk to somebody that maybe could smooth that up a little bit.
Okay.
I'll see what I can do.
sure. We can power trial that, you bet.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Lyle, while you're still up there, before you get away, I've always seen, and I don't know if this is accurate, but that there's momentum building at that end of the park, right? We've had more investment there, and the horseshoe area is just a phenomenal structure, but I know it gets used periodically, but doesn't get heavy use all the time. How do you think this will contribute to that overall end of the park and the momentum of that end of the park, or how do you see, I guess, and also why putting it there? I'm interested in just how all that fits together.
Well, you know that we've added some baskets, if you will, for the golf there, the disc golf. So that is growing, and they're going to need a place for gathering there because that's where the initial holes are there for that there too. We got the train museum there, train display that for the older generations they would go and enjoy. Of course, it'd be actually for all generations, but we got that. We have state tournaments all the time, horseshoe tournaments. we've had a national tournament or two over there for horseshoes. And so it'd be just a great gathering place for some of these folks to get out and from under the shade and enjoy that. And I get, there's probably numerous other things they could be doing over there too, so.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to talk about the timing and the money side of this just a little bit with the New Bern funds. I was trying to find that presentation that the investment folks did a few years ago, and I couldn't find it, but I found some minutes, and my recollection is that the New Bern fund has a stock component, a bond component, and I was trying to figure out if it had a cash component to it too. And I guess what I'm concerned about is if you wanted to play devil's advocate, like even though I like the idea of this project, I'm concerned about the timing a little bit because I know we can work off like the profit or the interest earned in the New Bern fund. That's the investment policy, I believe. And the bond market's the worst bond market we've had since the late 1700s over the last 4 months. Stock market's not in very good shape either. And then depending on your opinion of construction materials and all that, I mean, many would argue those are inflated right now as well. So if you wanted to play devil's advocate, you could say, well, there's no worse time to do this when the bond market, the stock market's down and materials are inflated. And so I'm wondering do you know if there's a cash component of the New Bern fund that we wouldn't be selling any securities in to generate the cash for this? Or, because I was thinking maybe there were some CDs in it as well, but.
At one time it had a CD component, but I'm not sure that it does anymore, because when they first initially changed the investment strategy, because at one time the whole fund was in CDs, and that was
Right.
not earning much, and so the recommendation was to go to the mixed use, but I'm not exactly sure what the complete mixture is of that right now. We'd have to do some looking. I can get that report for you, but I don't have it right in front of me.
Well, I would just tell the group, even though I like the idea of doing this project, I am a little concerned. When we talked about that, and a lot of that has been evolved over time, but the big advantage of the way the New Bern fund's been invested is to try to gain more interest and return and have more flexibility. A little bit of the downside of that is the timing of access to it can vary a little bit. I guess I think we should give some consideration to tabling it, looking a little closer at that. I guess I'd probably move that we table this to take a little closer look at that.
Second.
Motion by Lucas to table, second by Garrick. There is no discussion on motions to table. Calling the question on the motion to table. The item is tabled. Moving on to item number 9, which is authorize the mayor to execute the purchase agreements with Sanitation Products, Inc. and Elliott Equipment for replacement trucks for the sanitation department. We would need a motion.
I move to authorize the mayor to execute the purchase agreements with Sanitation Products, Inc. and Elliott Equipment for replacement trucks for the sanitation department as presented in the materials.
Second.
Is that you, Ed? Okay. Motion, Garrick. Second, Reeker. Okay. Discussion, item number 9. Who pulled it? You did. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Lucas.
Yeah, gosh, this might sound a little bit like the same as the last discussion, but I guess Lane, I'd like you to maybe walk us through why it's a good idea to maybe do so much a percentage of the fleet in one shot now versus trying to maybe move it over 2 budget years or type of thing. And I'm not just thinking about cost impact in 1 year, because I think you've got that budget, but I'm thinking a little bit about the time schedule with maintenance, life of equipment, and just, all those advantages we get by being in a constant, capital expenditure plan.
So, with our constant plan that we usually have for turnover, we should have bought about 3 or 4 trucks 2 years ago. And then everything was put on hold, and so we budgeted for last year, and we couldn't get anything because of supply chain, and so we just re-budgeted that money again this year, and some things have opened up, and so we're actually able to get some trucks right now, so that's why there was 6 instead of 3 2 years ago and 3 now, because we would have been in the second cycle to do 3 more, and then in a couple of years do another 3, and so that is why it's all hitting at once, mainly because we were held back 2 years ago and then, couldn't get anything last year. We took the time last year then because we couldn't get anything. We looked at, probably 4 or 5 different companies' trucks to try and get what we thought was going to be the best fit for our needs. You're never gonna find that perfect truck, but we felt the one-arm trucks were really good for our, street and grass pickups, and then the rear load trucks, they're giving us a really good price on our trade-ins, and these are all through Sourcewell, so it's already being pre-bid, and that's why we're doing all at once. And the hook truck, approving it now, that's probably not gonna be for delivery until fall. It may hit this budget cycle, it may not hit until the next one, but to get it ordered and get the approval, we wanted to put that on now, because this company has some trucks that are in the pipeline to get built. The other one that, is in this, line item can get us hook trucks also, but they are looking at 18 months or better before they would have one available, and so that's why we're doing that. And both of our hook trucks are pretty wore out. We use those also heavy snows. They put the, roll-offs on there, and that's how we haul the snow from downtown and things, and so they're not used just for the recycling roll-offs, they're used for, when we have our cleanup days and some different things, and they're used for snow removal as well, so there's some heavy use for them. That was the thought process behind there. We'd love to get back on the regular cycle, but right now we have a number of trucks that are, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year in maintenance costs because they're just old and wore out.
One technique you might consider, and I mean, that makes sense to me, and I know we've been bottled up on this for 2 or 3 years for different reasons. You might, as you're working through this, if this moves forward, I might encourage you to look at staggering the lease terms or some things on the backside to try to, or just examining, if we lose our staggering on the front end, is there a way to stagger stuff on the backside where we at least kind of get back into the semblance of a plan? In other words, if instead of maybe leasing them all at the same term, if some of those were a little shorter and some were a little longer, then if we've got to release stuff at that point in time, you won't be all lump summed and have so much terminating at one point in time. So you might consider looking at that as you're working through it.
Other comments or questions? Mr. Reeker.
Mr. Mayor, Lane, on the hook truck, can you tell me what do you primarily use? You said you have 2 of them now?
The hook trucks are number one, what we use to all the recycling spots for the roll-offs of the recycling spots. That's what we haul those back and forth to the recycling facility. We also use it, our large roll-offs that we do, garbage pickup, where we have the free garbage dumps in the spring. So taking those back and forth. Use it for snow removal when we take the stuff from downtown. Also, if there's heavy pickup of leaves, maybe tree hauling out if we have a tree fall at the parks and different things, we use it for a multitude of departments. It's not just used for sanitation department.
So it's not a commercial enterprise? It's not used commercially?
No, it's used for all different city services.
So will this one new truck then take the place of the 2 older trucks?
It'll take the place of one of the older trucks. So we're getting rid of the worst one, and we'll have the second one, so we have the backup as well.
Okay.
And depending on how that one continues to work, we may look at another hook truck in a year or 2 to replace that, but we're way behind on, those are actually about 5 years behind on our replacement. We've just been bandaging them together to get them to keep working.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Calling the question on item number 9, please. Item number 9 is passed. Okay, moving on to the regular agenda. We'll begin with item number 10, which is receive the annual reports, excuse me, for the Quality Growth Fund regarding Parkade Plaza and the Hershey Industrial Rail Park. No action will be taken. We'll just listen to this report. Ms. Caldwell, you are up.
Good evening. Shay Caldwell on behalf of Whitetail Management, 507 North Jeffers Street. Unfortunately, my report is not much of excitement, but more one of patience. When we purchased Parkade Plaza, it was right as that naughty C word was happening that we don't like to say anymore, and but that didn't really seem to derail people coming to us with many ideas for that space. Right now, it is almost all occupied with the exception of the Alco building. There is a business that we are in negotiations with that is hoping to occupy that sooner rather than later. That is an exciting piece of it. With Brothers coming under new ownership soon, we're really looking forward to the new owners and being able to work with them on revamping the facade of Parkade Plaza. We feel, we being Jeff and I, we feel that we were really given a gift when Noddle agreed to sell the strip mall to us. And so we feel an obligation to the community to make sure that we are realizing this gift in full. So we don't just want to jump at the first person who throws money at us and says, hey, we want to rent this space. We want to make sure that we're doing something that's right for downtown, that's right for our community, and so that is why we are being patient. We're also waiting for the growth that's coming real soon, and so that should bring about many opportunities as well. So it's our goal. We would love to have a grocery store there, but we'll see if that comes to fruition. We've been in conversations with 3 different potential grocers, so we'll see how that all shakes out. But again, the sky's the limit. Who knows what eventually will take place there. Working with the city on different streetscape projects too, so that, you know, when you drive downtown, it's such a neat environment, and so we want to carry that through. The Canteen District was just honored with the title, I think we're the 3rd or 4th community to be certified as a creative arts district. And so we've been granted some money, and some of that money will go towards some type of a sculpture that'll most likely be in that area as well. So a lot of things are happening, just nothing too concrete to report at this time. If anyone has any questions?
Thank you, Shay.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Pearson for the rail park, please.
Mayor Kelleher, council members, city administrative staff. First of all, congratulations to the 4 of you that are going to step up and serve another term. I appreciate your public service, and a lot of heavy lifting went in the last 4 years, and a lot of heavy lifting's going to go into the next 4 years. So pretty exciting times, and one of the exciting things going on is the Hershey Industrial Rail Park. Thanks in part to the support that this body gave this particular project when you awarded a $2 million grant through the Quality Growth Fund over the course of 10 years. To get that done. We've had 3 full years of work that's went into this to get us to this point today. I'm happy to report since the last time we had any kind of a report to the council, there's been very, very significant progress. So we feel really good about where things are headed with the rail park. As we explained back when we were applying for the Quality Growth Fund, the North Platte Chamber Development Corporation is the developer of this rail park, and there's a number of reasons why that partly allows us to do the best work possible for the community to move forward on this. But just a brief reminder of why we went down this path to start with. The uniqueness of North Platte, the uniqueness of Bailey Yard, which has been there for 75 years, is largely on the downside. You never trade a Bailey Yard for anything. It's been a wonderful asset, great jobs for this community. But one of the downsides is the number of congestion and traffic that moves through that prevents a rail access on the main line for other potential industries, manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, those kind of things. That's one of the first things I noticed when I moved to North Platte. From the standpoint that when you're trying to recruit companies here, not having that rail accessibility is a huge deficit. And a lot of times you're out of the running before you even get to first base and putting proposals together. So that was the reason we went down this path. We worked very closely with the Union Pacific leadership to open that door. And with their precision scheduling, they now have some of the automation they have in place, and the fact that the traffic on coal has diminished somewhat. They opened that door. So we analyzed the entire rail track system in all of Lincoln County to where this potentially could happen. Logic told us over near Hershey, where the Greenbrier facility was the logical place to do it. Greenbrier was one of extremely limited amount of rail access they've granted in the last 75 years, primarily because that company did direct work with Union Pacific. So we started working with Greenbrier officials. When UP kind of gave us the green light there, we started discussions with the adjacent landowners, including the landowner that sold Greenbrier the original property there. We were able to secure 5 different parcels of land totaling 300 acres. We have that under contract of option to purchase. We went through a site readiness assistance grant project. The reason that was very important, just like the comprehensive or the housing study you talked about tonight. If you don't have that study and the work and the detail that you go into to make those studies, a lot of times it shows that you haven't done your due diligence and planning in order to make a compelling case why this is a logical place for a rail park and to be able to recruit companies in. So we went through that process, and then we started down the path working through with the Nebraska legislature over 3 different sessions in 3 different years to get the state of Nebraska to understand the importance of having industrial rail parks across the state of Nebraska. We were able to get a Rural Projects Act adopted, and as a result of that, they allocated funding over a 10-year period of time up to $30 million. The following year, because the state was a little bit flush with money, the economy was rebounding, more tax revenue was coming in, and you had all the different federal funding funds coming forward. That opened the door for additional $60 million to be allocated for this in a guaranteed funding, not on the what if the funding's available, the grant would be allowed. So then we went through a very competitive process. There were 8 different communities that had initial pre-applications in for rail park funds. 5 actually did submit, and we were the first in, and by far we had, in my humble opinion, the best application. We put the most work into it, about a 2,000-page document, and we were awarded $30 million from the state of Nebraska to develop the rail park. We had to have proof that we had $7.5 million of local matching funds. When you have that kind of a disparity, usually grants are 50-50 at best, and for this to be heavily weighted for state funding as opposed to local funding, we couldn't have done it without the leverage that you helped provide through the Quality Growth Fund and the $2 million. And we worked on a number of different avenues to secure the other parts of the funding. We then have worked with the village of Hershey very diligently. Hershey will eventually annex these properties, and a lot of the utilities that will serve it are village controlled. And we worked with the other utility companies on the expansion that's going to be needed to do that. We did another study, economic impact analysis, that's going to help us recruit different companies there, and on what the potential this could be used for. We've targeted primarily agriculture processing because we think that, just like sustainable beef, that has a spillover impact on our economy in a number of different ways, not only jobs, new investment, but the farmers having the ability to make a little more money and keep it in the local economy. We worked with UP to get rail access granted on the main line. That was approved. And then in the process with COVID and everything, unfortunately, Greenbrier was a victim of that. They closed temporarily for a while, and then consolidated their Hershey operation with their Kansas City operation, and then later decided never to reopen. So we worked with them to make sure that that property didn't fall in the hands of somebody that wouldn't embrace the rail park, because it was a critical component of it. And then thanks to, I guess Chris was sitting here, Chris Bruns, but Lincoln County came into partnership with us. The ARPA funding they received, they granted that through the North Platte Chamber Development to be able to secure the property. That's one of the requirements of the grant application we were awarded by the state of Nebraska, is the Chamber Development has to be the developer of that property. We then in turn after we purchase the Greenbrier property, lease that back to Lincoln County. Their intent is to, and we worked with them on an application for an Inland Port Authority status. That is now pending before the Nebraska Department of Economic Development. We'll know in January. If that gets approved, but their intent is then to be the operator of the Inland Port Authority using the Greenbrier facility to do that. In addition to some other things that possibly that facility can be used for. It's a very unique thing. The Inland Port thing, there the state's going to award 5. We're one of only 3 in right now, and again, we were the first applicant in, so we feel very, very strong about that. If we're successful, then we can start applying for free trade zone, foreign trade zone status. That would be a huge deal. The county designated a 400-acre area, 300 of those acres in our park to be considered for an Inland Port Authority. I said we did the economic impact analysis also. In addition to that, as we started recruiting ag processors, we did another feasibility study showing that a soybean processing plant can be a viable entity there. And we've got statewide publicity on that. We've been working with a number of different companies that have these types of projects across the state, across the Midwest in the United States, and so we feel good about where we're positioning ourselves there, as well as other types of ag processing and other types of trade distribution out of there. We're working now with UP to reactivate the Greenbrier spur coming in there, and so all of these pieces of the puzzle have come together. We've got a good game plan. And then after we secure an anchor project, that's when the dominoes start to fall. And you have to design a rail park differently than you do a business park, in the sense that you've got to adapt to your projects you recruit there. Some of them could want as many as 100 acres. Some of them may want only 5 acres. So you always have to adapt accordingly and design and engineer accordingly. But it potentially is going to have a similar impact to what sustainable beef will have here. The economic impact analysis shows that. And the jobs will be good jobs, manufacturing, processing jobs, and a very good thing. Wouldn't have happened without all your cooperation, and we appreciate everything that you've done to make it possible. And next year, when we give you the annual report, I think we'll have more exciting things to talk about.
Gary, who will actually manage and operate, operate the rail park?
Well, by the process of the law, there'll be the Chamber Development Corporation initially. There is a provision that allows us to sell individual parts of the rail park with the state permission. We have to have a compelling reason why that's important. But no industry is going to sock several $100 million into a project out there without eventually owning the property. We just have to go through an additional process to make that happen. But the main parts of it, we will have some responsibility. Lincoln County will have some responsibility through the Inland Port Authority. We'll have some kind of a mutual operational agreement. They will have actually a board that oversees the Inland Port Authority. It has to be separate from Lincoln County Commissioners. It's its own independent authority. And then we would probably hire a management company or an individual to manage it. But there are different companies out there that specialize in this, and I've had conversations with a handful of them. And we'll rely very heavily on Union Pacific and our rail consultant for their advice, and when that time comes, our initial effort is towards the development of the park, of course, and then we'll cross each one of those bridges that we come to, but we have numerous options.
So will this necessitate then, like a short line railroad, to go ahead and move the cars on the site?
It's more of just a rail movement in and out. A short line railroad, you really have to have 2 connecting dots to it with a loop system, and that's what makes a short line. And it's several miles in design. And this is more of a unload, much like it's kind of like you see in the different grain elevators go through, when you drop off cars and you back them in, and then eventually you'll pull them back out. And that's kind of how this system's going to work. You probably have a little mobile unit that can move some of this internally. But this is between UP, Mainline, and Highway 30, which doesn't give you a lot of acreage in which to be able to do a loop system. Plus, you're taking away quite a bit of property in order to do that. So it's the best we can hope for the rules of engagement we have in Lincoln County. So it's much better than what we've had for 75 years, for sure.
Well, I'm really excited about it. I think this is a great development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary and Shay. Okay, moving on to item number 11. Item number 11 is pulled from the agenda at the request of the applicant. Item number 12, approve extending the landfill pasture land grazing lease for another 3 years to Billy Wilson in the amount of $8,700 per year.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve
Number 12.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I've got.
Okay.
Approval of the extended lease to Billy Wilson for $8,700 for 2023, 2024, and 2025. This will become effective June 1, 2023.
Second.
Motion Reeker, second Garrick. Any discussion on item number 12?
Lane, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. Mr.
Go ahead, Mr. Reeker.
In the situation we find ourselves with extreme drought, is there any kind of management requirement for this land, such as maintaining a certain amount of cover, or do we have any oversight in this, or are we just letting him use it, and at the end of 3 years, we get what we have?
There's discussion as far as the number of cattle that can be on it depending on the conditions. We've had good relationship and good management of it in the past as well, so.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're in kind of a unique situation, at least in my lifetime. I don't remember it ever being as dry as it is today. And I just wondered if there was some consideration for that. Okay, thank you.
Other thoughts or discussion? Calling the question on item number 12, please. Item number 12 is passed. Item number 13. Are you ready, Lane? Okay. Third reading and action on City Planning Commission's recommendation to adopt ordinance number 4111, annexing Lot 1 Lakeview County Estates second subdivision, more particularly described as part of the southeast quarter of Section 36, Township 14 North, Range 31 west of the 6 p.m., Lincoln County, Nebraska, into the corporate limits of the city of North Platte. Lane, the ordinance, please.
Ordinance number 4111, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, including within the corporate limits of the city of North Platte, certain lands described as Lot 1, Lakeview Country Estates, second subdivision, described as part of the southeast quarter of Section 36, Township 14 North, Range 31 west of the 6 p.m., Lincoln County, Nebraska, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Thank you.
I move to adopt ordinance number 4111, annexing Lot 1, Lakeview Country Estates, second subdivision, Lincoln County, Nebraska, into the corporate limits of the city of North Platte on final reading.
Second.
Motion Garrick, second Reeker. Any discussion on item number 13? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 13, please. Item number 13 is passed. Item number 14, we have a public hearing first. Public hearing to consider action or have discussion on action to adopt resolution regarding the City of North Platte, Nebraska Blight and Substandard Study Habitat for Humanity as prepared by Marvin Planning Consultants, Inc., and approval of related actions. I am opening the public hearing on this subject. Do we have anyone who would like to discuss this public hearing, this matter before the council? give it about 10 more seconds and then okay.
Thank you. I'm Chuck Scripter. Been volunteering with Habitat for Humanity since
Chuck,
way back when.
Chuck, hold on just a second. Tell us where you live, please. What's your address?
Pardon?
What's your address?
809 West Phillip.
Okay, thank you.
Platte, Nebraska.
Thank you. I know where you live, but I couldn't remember the numbers.
Thank you. That's
Okay.
all right.
Please continue.
I just want to give you a little history. When we first started this, all we had was little single lots, one here, one there, with people's donations. So that's how we got started. Is a community-wide effort. There were a lot of committees involved, bringing this to where we are today. So now we're up to 62 houses, and we have several tools that Habitat owns because of donations from the different groups that have brought to us. We've had different groups come forward to offer their help of how we can help. The faith community has been very strong in all of this. And so our problem is lots. We have a hard time of getting lots. And it's so hard for us to go build and do a subdivision because the cost is too expensive. So what we're still looking for is opportunities around the community here. Where can we build? Where can we build low-income houses? I used to live close to La Vista in Omaha, and I remember getting started with the telephone company, and at that particular time, they were building really small homes, concrete floors, because they were starter houses, and people needed a place to live, and it's still going on today. People need a place to live of some type or another. So the community has been great with the city. We've had great cooperation over the years, and we expect that to go in the future. And this is just one opportunity that's been before us that will help Habitat for Humanity build those homes.
Thank you, Chuck.
Any questions that I can answer? If not, we got the expert back here. Because I've been out of the administration quite a while for Habitat, but I still love to work at it because it's a great group of people that work together to produce. We build people to build a better community for our children.
Thank you. We reserve the right to call you back if we have questions. Anyone else wish to speak at the public hearing?
Move to close the go ahead.
Oh,
Come on up, Dave.
okay. Come on up, Daleen.
I'm Daleen Skates. My address is 474 West University Drive. I am the Executive Director for North Platte Area Habitat for Humanity, and in February I will have been there 7 years. And Chuck is right. When we first started 25 years ago, we would build a house here and a house there where the lots were donated. The idea being that the neighborhood would lift those partner families up and teach them to be homeowners and community members. We had varying degrees of success with that. When I started in 2016, we started with our homeowner education classes, and those have been really successful. We do things like lawn and garden maintenance, home maintenance, insurance, financial preparedness, appliance maintenance and care. We have about 20 hours of homeowner education. And you can see the difference that education brings to those homeowners. Just because you build a house with someone doesn't make them a homeowner. These classes transition them from being a renter into a homeowner, and it has made more of a success. Our process now is 3 houses every year, and as Chuck mentioned, it's hard to stay in front of 3 houses. We already have the families for next year that we're getting ready to build for. And the area that we're looking at right now is on 2nd and McCabe. That's going to give us an opportunity to build anywhere from 8 to 12 houses in that area. What it does when we build a habitat neighborhood is it gives these partner families an opportunity, especially when we pick them 3 at a time like this, to work on each other's houses, to get to know each other, to get to know each other's kids. And they strengthen each other that way. There's strength in numbers, right? And when you put these families together who have all been through the same process, I don't know how many of you know this, but each partner family has to do 400 hours of sweat equity time in building that house. And so they get to know the house inside and out. They get to know their neighbor's house inside and out, and they get to know the neighborhood inside and out. This is really a great opportunity for us to continue to strengthen families, continue to build houses. I don't know how many of you know this, but as of August this year, 6 new housing starts had been pulled at the city. 3 of them were Habitat. So we're pulling our weight in this community. We're providing houses and homes for low-income families who really deserve them and work hard for them. We appreciate your the opportunity to come talk to you about Habitat, and I'd welcome any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Mr. Lucas, hold on.
Oh, no, it's fine, Ms. Tryon, please
Oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I didn't see it,
Yeah,
Donna.
no,
Go
she's
ahead.
welcome to go ahead.
That's okay. Thank you for that information. Can you touch a little bit on how the financing of these houses work for these people that will be living?
So right now, what Habitat does is we do fundraisers, which we have one going on tonight. So when we're all done here, let's head on over to the mailbox auction at the Prairie Art Center. We also do grant and we get donations. And the partner families buy these houses, so they are mortgaged. These are not free houses. Every partner family pays a 30-year mortgage. So the funding is paid forward.
So do they get a loan, like if I were to go buy a house, would it be the same kind of loan? Is that what you're saying?
Habitat holds all the mortgages, and these are zero-interest loans because the 400 hours that they put in is the interest. So these are zero-interest loans, and we hold all the mortgages.
And if someone were to sell that before it's paid off?
Well, they own the house, so they do have the opportunity to sell it. The way we have this set up is the mortgage is the exact cost it took to build the house. Then we have what we call a silent second, that is the difference between what they paid for the house and what the house is appraised at. So let's say in 7 years or 5 years, they are, promoted and transferred or decide to go to college or something and they move, they're able to sell that house. What they owe Habitat then is the balance of that first mortgage and the silent second. Habitat is not a get-rich-quick scheme, so we don't want anybody doing that, but we do get our money back that way. If the house is sold, they do pay the mortgage.
So the silent second, who holds that?
We do.
Oh, you hold that also?
And should they stay in the house through the entirety of the 30-year mortgage, it just goes away.
Sure.
The only way it comes into play is if they sell it ahead of the payoff.
So they really don't ever pay any interest?
Right.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Lucas?
I got to talk to you about a little bit of this, but I think it'd be good for the group to hear some of this too, that I'd like you to ask about developing isn't something our local chapter's done. Developing's different than building because you're going through the public process and you're spending a lot of money on lots and you don't necessarily know when those are going to exactly get used, right? So I'm interested in how do lots of habitat organizations do lot development? I'm sure this was a hard decision to jump into for you and your board, but if you wouldn't mind just giving us a little color commentary on what you guys are looking at as you're making the decision to jump into the development business a little bit here.
One of the things that we look at is, because we build for families, as you know, we would like to have these lots as close to schools as we can get. The one that we're looking at on 2nd and McCabe is 6 blocks from Jefferson, because these are families who are going to have kids going to school. The lot that we bought over on 17th, our families were supposed to go to Buffalo School, but that didn't work out. It's also, the lot that we're looking at on 2nd and McCabe is close to Gary's grocery store. So we like to be in neighborhoods. It is a difficult decision where you're going to build and how you're going to build, and affiliates do struggle with that. We are very lucky in North Platte that we don't have to pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for a lot. A lot of other affiliates, Lincoln, Grand Island, struggle with that. We have a very generous community who supports Habitat that way. We have had lots that have been donated to us, like the one that we're working on Miles. That was a family that was very close to our former construction coordinator, Larry Peterson. You all may know him, a longtime volunteer with Habitat. And so we have those relationships. Buying them sometimes is how you have to go. So yeah, it is a decision that weighs heavily on us.
Because you guys would have to, you'd be paying for all infrastructure, and you'd have to finance or however a TIF bond if this all gets approved.
Right.
And that's going to be on your organization's shoulders, correct,
Right,
Aileen?
right, because we don't get paid back for 30 years. So the upfront outlay is a consideration, and this lot that we're looking at now, there is some infrastructure there, but we don't know the condition of it. So we're gonna have to be looking at sewer and water and all of that, and getting that going for these families. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
So the property taxes, when a family moves in and takes over this 30-year mortgage, how are the property taxes assessed? Are they assessed on the what? How does that work?
I guess I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know how property taxes are assessed.
It's
But
just
our
like any
pro-
other home. It's just
Pardon me?
like any other home.
It's just like anybody else, yes.
Based on the value.
Yes,
They pay
and
to
every partner family's house is escrowed, so their mortgage is escrowed. So the property taxes and insurance is paid through that escrow account through our office.
Oh, okay, so then you in turn, or somebody, whoever you invest with, they pay it out.
Yes, we write the checks every year for all of those. And I will tell you, the last time I calculated all of the property taxes that Habitat families have paid, we are in excess of $805,000 that we have paid through the life of Habitat. And I'll be honest, the last time I calculated that was 2020. But we do have 62 houses. We just did a dedication on the 28th of November. We'll have another one coming up in January, and then a third one right after that. So every year, we're putting 3 more houses on the property tax rolls. Any other questions?
Thank you, Daleen. We reserve the right to call you back.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak at the public hearing?
Chance Schilling, 3302 Appaloosa Drive, North Platte, Nebraska. I had no intention of speaking tonight, but Habitat is near and dear to my heart. In 2018, I was Mr. Habitat and did some fundraising for them, and we did a really good job that year. And Lisa Sitta, Officer Sitta, came back the next year and raised more money than me with my help, I tell her. But I'm also on the Family Selection Committee for Habitat. And this year we had 17 applicants apply for this. We had the hard task of going and visiting with these people. And to be honest with you, all 17 deserved new homes. 3 homes is not enough, but it's a start. And Daleen has done an amazing job with these homeowners. And they become like family. And to see the personal growth that they have through this process is very humbling to see. I can't say enough positives about this organization. So with that, I'll let you guys go. Thank you.
Thank you, Chance. You have a question?
Yes, I do.
Hey,
Mr.
Chance,
Mayor.
hold on a
I don't
second.
know who to address it to,
Oh,
but.
Go ahead, ask your question. We'll get
Okay,
somebody to answer.
When you look at the cost reduction, if this is passed, how does that impact the homeowner? Do you have any calculations on how much that will impact, like the monthly payments? Because it's gonna reduce the cost, I presume, of that house.
Actually, I don't. And I'll be honest with you, the reason that I don't is because costs skyrocket. The trusses that we bought in 2019 for the houses that we build, and most of you have seen the houses that we build, they're safe, decent, affordable houses. They're never going to be on the cover of Architectural Digest. But the trusses that we bought in 2019 cost us $2,807. Okay, the trusses that we bought for the houses this year, $6,812. So that's a significant increase. I have no idea how much the costs are gonna be. But I do know that the houses that we were building earlier this year over on Buffalo were coming in at about 80,000. The house that we just dedicated was over 90. So I wish I could answer your question. I wish I had a crystal ball, and I wish I had a way to reduce it for everybody so that it could be more affordable. But I will tell you that the family that just got their house dedicated, they were paying almost $800 in rent for a house that only had 2 working outlets in the whole house. 2 working outlets in the whole house with extension cords going everywhere. Now they live in a safe, decent, affordable house with many outlets in every room, and they are paying half that, and that includes the property taxes and their homeowner insurance as well. So we need to make this affordable for them.
Thank you.
Additional questions?
Thank you.
Oh, maybe I do have one more. So,
Okay.
So say $400 a month to live in a brand-new house for 30 years, that's a pretty good deal. How does that compare with North Platte's low-income housing?
Now that I don't know, but I will tell you that a lot of our applicants this year live in low-income housing. And they're
Already?
looking to get out of there, yes, and so it is more. It's, from what I gather, the low-income housing is on a sliding scale, so depending on their income. Last year, we selected a family who came from HUD housing, and in the year that it took us to get them through the process, their rent went up 3 times in the HUD housing. So
Based on the income, their income?
based on their income, the father would get 25-cent or 35-cent increases, and their rent would go up by $50 a month. So it wasn't exactly proportionate, but I'm not here to cast dispersions upon Housing Authority either, or how they run their organization. I just know that we have applicants that come from the Housing Authority, and they're typically paying less in a mortgage than what they were paying in rent.
Thank you.
Other questions? Again, thank you for allowing me so much time. I appreciate it.
Anyone else like to speak at the public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Garrick to close the public hearing. Calling the question, closing the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider action to adopt resolution regarding the City of North Platte, Nebraska Blight and Substandard Study, Habitat for Humanity, as prepared by Marvin Planning Consultants, Inc., and approval of related actions. Council, we can certainly recall any of the folks who just spoke if we need them to answer further questions.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution as presented in council materials regarding the City of North Platte, Nebraska Blight and Substandard Study, Habitat for Humanity, as prepared by Marvin Planning Consultants, Inc., and approval of related actions.
Second.
Motion by Vols, motion by Vols, second by Nisley. Discussion on item number 14.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Lucas.
Yeah, just a couple quick comments. I think it's important as a council that we remember that the state of Nebraska laws, legislature, have adopted this. It's under our local control to utilize TIF on a project like this. I can't think of a better project. You've got an organization that has the guts and the history to do this and the wherewithal to do it. And, you know, they've got an amazing, amazing track record. I'd also like to remind us, I don't lobby for votes very often because I respect that this council, everyone has to make a decision on their own principles, but we need housing bad. And all these projects we talk about, all the stuff we've invested in, none of them are going to work if we can't house the employees and the growth that we're planning for. And everybody's watching in the state because they see the opportunity in front of us here in North Platte. And if we give Habitat for Humanity a hard time on a basic TIF housing development project, what do we think, how does an outside developer feel like they'll be treated in this community? And so I really ask you to consider your thoughts as we go through this process with Habitat for Humanity, that people are paying attention and we really need housing. And we really need housing developers, both locally and from out of the area, who are willing to come in and look at developing residential lots in this community. I think it's fair to say I'm probably in favor of this.
No, really? Other thoughts or questions?
I keep hearing about how we're really short of housing and whatnot, but, you know, I'm watching a couple of units in my neighborhood, and one's for rent and one's for sale, and they're still sitting there. So I don't know, we might be short of housing in the future if everything comes together that the city and the county are planning, but I don't know if I totally prescribe to the fact that we're short of housing now. Just my comments, my observations.
Hey, Donna, do you know how many houses are on the market this week?
I don't know, but I do know that there's plenty for rent by owner, and I don't know whether, when you see what the realtors tell you, are they counting the ones that are for sale by owner or for rent by owner?
For the for sale ones, yes, they are. Yeah, I don't know how many are rent, but for the last year approximately, our number of houses for sale has varied anywhere between 30 and the most I've seen is 55 in any given week. I couldn't speak to the rental units, but based on the new ones and how quickly they're getting gobbled up, I would say we're probably not too long on rental units either. So I know I've gotten, myself in the last 2 weeks, I've gotten 6 inquiries on how do I rent one of the apartments at the mall. I don't have anything to do with the process, but people call me and ask me, so I pass them on to the representative here locally. So anyway, Mr. Voles, you had a question.
Ty always says things much more eloquently than I do, so thank you for that, and I echo everything you said. I don't know if we listened, they had 17 applicants, so we'll get to build 3 this year. Next year, they'll probably have 24. This community is in dire need. We see how some folks are living. This is a program that is not a handout. This is a hand up. These folks put in sweat equity to try and maintain dignity and a living standard that is commensurate with their wages. Habitat for Humanity, this is the best use of TIF that I have ever seen. This is absolutely, in my opinion, a no-brainer. I am a proponent of TIF. There are the hidden costs of TIF, I feel, are investing back into our community. Nobody's getting a handout on this thing. Everything is a hand up in this case. And for them to take the risk, for Habitat for Humanity to take the risk to try and develop a property that is underdeveloped right now, I applaud you and thank you very much. And I obviously am in support of this also. And I just want to say thank you guys for doing what you do.
Other thoughts or questions?
Just real quick, I don't
Mr.
want to, excuse me, thank you, Mayor. I don't want to belabor this too much. You know, Habitat is a fantastic organization. What they do is just amazing. So thank you guys for everything you do. So even if there isn't a housing shortage today, which I believe there is, if we don't start preparing for the growth that is coming, where we're going to be at in a year or 2 years. So I really struggle with that logic. So I would encourage, you know, let's try and help our developers out as much as we can to help with the growth of the community.
Mr. Reeker?
Mr. Mayor, as you all know, I've taken a pretty hard position on using tax increment financing for housing development. And part of my logic has been that when we offer TIF to a developer, that in essence rewards either the developer or the previous landowner or both. In this particular case, that doesn't appear to be the case. I'm a firm believer that government should not be subsidizing private enterprise. I think it's absolutely wrong for taking tax money and giving it to somebody else. I don't agree with that ideology. But this appears to be different in my mind, and I have to admit that when I came to the meeting tonight, I was definitely going to vote no. You've made some convincing arguments. I don't see this as helping a developer. And so I'm persuaded to vote yes.
Other comments or questions?
Excuse me, I'm persuaded to vote yes on this particular house.
There's lots of retorts on that, but I think I'll just pass. Okay, moving on. Any other thoughts or questions? Ms. Tryon?
I'll just make a comment. I did have the privilege of going over to the mall and the new construction, and I would report that what I saw is it's nothing but a beehive. I mean, those guys are working and working fast. So hopefully, I wanted to get up to look at one of the apartments, but everything's blocked off because they're working on that bottom floor. So I just wanted to let you know that. Won't be long.
Other thoughts or questions on item number 14? Calling the question on item number 14. Item number 14 is passed. Now we'll move on to item number 15, which we have another public hearing. And the public hearing is to consider action on an application by Lakeside Campground Holding Company LLC for a conditional use permit to allow outside and enclosed RV storage as part of an existing RV park located at 3800 Hadley Drive in a B-2 Highway Commercial District and described as attractive land in Government Lots 6, 7, and 8 in Section 11 and Government Lot 1 in Section 14, Township 13 North, Range 30 west of the 6 p.m., Lincoln County, Nebraska. So opening the public hearing on item number 15, which is the subject of all that I just read. Anyone would like to comment on item number 15 in this public hearing? Please come up to the stand, tell us your name and your address. We're going to, hold on just a second, Ed. Okay, I'm guessing no one's coming up. Do you want to make a comment now?
We close the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion by Reeker, second by Garrick to close the public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Thank you, Mr. Reeker. I'd like to wait 15 seconds at least before we close the hearing, so I appreciate your zeal. Okay, thank you. Okay. Council will now consider action on an application by Lakeside Campground Holding LLC for a conditional use permit to allow outside and enclosed RV storage as part of an existing RV park located at 3800 Hadley Drive in a B2 Highway Commercial District and described as tractive land in Government Lots 6, 7, and 8 in Section 11 and Government Lot 1 in Section 14, Township 13 North, Range 30 west of the 6 p.m., Lincoln County, Nebraska.
Mayor Kelleher, I move that we find a request for a conditional use permit to allow outside and enclosed RV storage as part of an existing RV park located at 3800 Hadley Drive meets the minimum standards stated in the North Platte Code of Ordinances, Section 156.322, and approve and grant the conditional use permit requested with the condition that all elements of the application are complied with based upon the following factual findings. 1, the use shall conform to all applicable ordinances, laws, and regulations of any governmental jurisdiction. 2, the use shall have adequate water, sewer, and drainage facilities. 3, ingress and egress shall be so designated as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets. 4, the use shall in all other respects conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located. 5, the use shall be in harmony with the character of the area and the most appropriate use of the land.
Second.
Motion Nisley, second Lucas. Discussion on item number 15.
Mr. Mayor?
Hold on, Mr. Woods had his hand up first.
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Judy.
Hey, Mark, would you get a little closer to the mic?
Oh.
Sorry, I've been getting complaints about you. I apologize. Well, you're speaking, not you personally. I'm sorry.
Well, usually I'm too loud, so. It's about the conditional use permit. I mean, this is already zoned for RV park and campground. They already have outside storage. I looked at the permitted uses for a B2, and J is commercial operations and businesses intended for the purpose of servicing travel and recreational users, which having a place to store your vehicle is, to me, a use for the recreators. I'm not against this project, I'm all for it. But I don't understand why we're charging them to get a conditional use permit when it seems to be permitted already.
They're doing a mini warehouse storage facility, so it wouldn't necessarily have to be just only simply RVs, because what they're asking for is a mini warehouse storage facility, which would be like any other mini warehouse storage facility. This one is in an RV park, and their intent is to use it for RV storage, which they can do. The RV park currently is not zoned for the RV park. They originally had to get a conditional use years ago when they first did it.
Okay.
So they had to get a original conditional use permit when they first started that park to begin with. So since it's a conditional use permit, I can't just now say it's permitted, you can go ahead and do it. Because then what technically they're doing is amending their original conditional use permit to allow a mini warehouse storage facility.
Okay. Well, I didn't, maybe I missed it, but I didn't see anything about mini warehouse storage, only
Well,
RV storage.
Right, but I mean, what is it, when you look at what they're doing, they're putting up a mini warehouse storage facility, which is the same, because they're going to have individual
Yeah.
units that they're gonna rent out just like any other. So I mean, it'd be hard to differentiate between, okay, well, this is just simply this versus
Okay.
what it could be used in the future.
Okay.
So that's my reasoning behind it. If I'm interpreting it wrong, then that's something that the attorney and I could discuss, but that's my interpretation of how it would work.
Judy, I didn't look into this at all, but given Mark's logic and the fact that we've redone our zoning, would the redefinition of the zoning preclude the previous conditional use permit?
No, when you change a zoning, and we haven't changed any of the commercial yet, probably since this was done, maybe in 2012 it might have, but no, when you change zoning regulations, when you change zoning codes, some of those may end up being what you call legal non-conforming uses. So they don't conform to the current code, but they did conform to the code when it was original. So it doesn't make them illegal, it just doesn't make them true to conforming to what they are today. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, but it seems like the current definition would allow the storage units that they want to put in there, which would negate the need to upgrade the previous conditional use permit.
Not in a B2 district. If you're in a B2 district, you have to get a conditional use permit for a storage facility.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Lucas?
Yeah, I'd like to move to amend Councilman Nisley's motion. In the first line of the proposed motion, right after RV storage, I would like to caret in and mini warehouse. So to reread that first line, it would be, I move that we find the request for conditional use permit to allow outside and enclosed RV storage and mini warehouse as part of an existing RV. So again, that's just careting in and mini warehouse.
I have no objection to the amendment.
Second.
Motion on amendment as read by Mr. Lucas, second by Garrick. Any discussion on adding those and mini warehouse words?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Reeker?
I guess I need some clarification from Judy on that. Are they gonna be parking RVs and other camper-type units in these storage units? Or is this gonna be a storage unit that maybe I wanna rent to store my extra household furniture for a year?
The applicants are here, so we can ask them that, but their intent is for that to be RV storage only. Now, that's fine. If they happen to sell the property, what's the intent of the next person? But could they, if they can't fill it with RVs and RV-related material, could they go ahead and rent it to somebody who wants to store boxes in there? Yes, 100% they could. Now, that is not their intent, and I'm sure that they intend to have all of them be campers, RVs, camping-related materials, but they are here if you want to ask them.
What I'm hearing is this may not be a mini warehouse storage. This is an RV camper storage unit. It's not a mini warehouse. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is
They're
their,
two separate units. They're two separate items. I don't know the particular definition, but I'm not sure we should be amending the motion if we're
Well, let me provide some comments on why I amended the motion. Are we gonna police whether there's RVs in these units or somebody who maybe stays there puts boxes in them? I mean, to me, this is a really narrow conditional use permit as presented, and I think it's gonna be a disaster to police it down the road if people in this area start utilizing them then as storage units. So obviously we'll have the opportunity to vote on my amendment, but I think we need to think about, all of a sudden somebody's complaining in here, somebody's putting boxes or their motorcycle or something in the storage unit. Now all of a sudden we're trying to figure out if this is RV storage or mini warehouse storage, which is why I don't like conditional use permits generally to begin with. But I do feel like it's pretty narrow as proposed through the Planning Commission.
Hold on a second. Go ahead, Ed.
Can we have the owners tell us what their intentions are?
Folks, come on up, please. One of you, or both of you, whichever you prefer.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Melissa Shepard, and this is my husband Jared Shepard, and we are the owners of I-80 Lakeside Campground here in North Platte.
Our address is 76031 Road 412 in Gothenburg.
Thank you. I was just going to ask you, so thank you.
So we do intend to have RVs in there for storage. However, as Judy mentioned, if we are not able to fill those, which we are pretty sure we're going to get them filled with RVs, we would like to be able to have people store other things. We own a storage facility in Brady, and we're very selective about who we have in those storage facilities. And we do, ask what they will be storing, what their intents are. We have a pretty detailed agreement with them.
Based on the size of the units too, it wouldn't really be that great for somebody just to use them to store boxes and that sort of thing though, because they are relatively large and they will rent for a fairly large amount of money as well. Being 50 foot by 14 foot, I can't guarantee the use of those units, but I would imagine it's going to be probably larger RVs. But we won't be policing. If somebody wants to rent one and store a boat in it, well, I don't see a reason to turn them away for that.
Mr. Woods, go ahead.
Well, as far as motorcycles and boats, to me, that would still fit under the recreational vehicle use. But if y'all, may rent them out as mini storage units, which you make a good argument, it would be very hard, because it is not what I would call a mini storage unit. It's a very large unit, and I can't see that either. And I know it's a small amount, your conditional use permit, but if I feel you didn't need one, I'm just trying to save you the money.
We do appreciate that as well. Every little bit counts.
But if you're okay with the mini warehouse designation, then I don't have an argument with amending it and putting it in.
I guess what I was hoping for was just to give them some flexibility on it and not have have arguments later about it, because we're trying to remember what we meant at that point in time, some years down the road.
Hold on, Mr. Vols.
I just want to ask, nice picture, but kind of paint me a picture of what it's gonna look like, the exterior component and stuff, and how they'll be maintained. Is it concrete? Are you gonna have fencing around it? What are you gonna, because we go out there quite a bit. You have a great facility, by the way.
Well, thank you.
And my
Thanks a
kids
lot.
love going out there, and, my old kids, and hanging out by the lake, and the little kids.
So it'll be corrugated steel. The building's 112 by 50. It'll have a concrete, we're looking at maybe a 5 to 6 inch thick concrete. Not a whole lot of approach on that, if any approach at all. We're gonna have the drive in between, as depicted in the picture, preferably crushed concrete in that area. And this will be where we already have our existing outside storage. So we don't feel it's gonna really affect the day-to-day camping, I guess, that our beloved customers have as well, so.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
And one other thing you asked too was about whether or not it would be fenced. We have one way in, one way out of the RV park.
Okay.
We have a camera system set up. We are able to see all of the traffic coming in and leaving. We weren't really planning on putting any sort of a big prison-like fence. I mean, I just don't want to take away from the visuals of the campground by putting in a large fence, I guess. And I don't see it as being necessary.
Yeah, I don't either. Each unit has an overhead door type.
Correct. Yep, and it'll all be lit up as well.
Okay. Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions before I let these folks sit down? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we now need to vote on the proposed amendment. So calling the question on the amendment, which is to add and mini warehouse as described by Mr. Lucas. Okay, that amendment is passed. So the words and mini warehouse are now placed in the first line. Back to the original discussion of item number 15. Do we have any other questions or thoughts? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 15 as amended. Maybe.
Are we set up?
Hold on. There we go. Okay. Okay, calling the question. Item number 15 is passed. Item number 16, approve the claims.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve, pay the claims.
Second.
Motion Reeker, second Flanders. Any discussion on the claims? Seeing none, calling the question on the claims.
Sorry.
Claims are paid. Public agenda request. We request our city employees, we respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. This is the part of the agenda where if anyone would like to add something to a future agenda, we ask that they come to the mic and make that request. Based on the look of the audience, I don't think we're going to have anyone at this particular point. Mr. Reeker.
Is there an opportunity to have a discussion about the cameras the police department installed, or is that off of the agenda?
We can certainly consider having a discussion about them, but definitely not today because it's not on the agenda. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion Reeker, second Flanders to adjourn. Calling the question on adjournment.
Everybody want to stay?
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a marvelous evening.
Sorry, Brandon.
I think, I don't know where it breaks off, but I think it would be like the open warehouse, so like anywhere they're like